Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, wants government to consider a stimulus package for public transport operators. This follows protests by some commercial drivers in the Western region yesterday. These drivers have increased fares by about 30%, arguing the social distancing restriction in their vehicles was affecting their income margins. But COPEC believes government's incentive is ideal in this crucial time. Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of COPEC, and he joins me via Zoom. Duncan, thanks so much for your time. That story you just saw, I'm sure you're confident to travel now with the safety protocols in place. Hello, Duncan. Kindly unmute your volume for me.
Yes, this is done. Good evening, Sandra. Good evening to your viewers.
Yes. Okay. So I was going to, on a lighter note, I was asking if the story you just saw, you are safe to travel now with those protocols in place.
Sandra, we probably have to live with COVID. And right. So the earlier we get used to getting our lives back to normal, the better. Once the protocols are observed and once people stick to what the WHO and the Ghana Health Service says we should all do, I believe we'll be able to go around and not necessarily infect ourselves or infect others. So I'm confident I wouldn't mind flying anytime soon if I had the chance.
I wouldn't mind myself. Anyway, to the main issue for tonight. Yesterday there was a protest in the Western region where commercial drivers raised a lot of concerns about the social distancing protocols in their vehicles and that they increased fares. Those were genuine concerns, right?
Sandra, yes. It will be difficult for any Ghanaian to, at this point, still expect that our commercial public transport operators would continue to charge the same fares that they were charging at the outset of this coronavirus issues. If you recall, we've also issued instructions that the public transport operators observe social distancing in these vehicles. What it means is that vehicles that ordinarily would have taken 20 or 30 passengers would have to reduce sometimes by 40, 50%. So as to observe the distance and within these public transport systems. Unfortunately, your fuel prices is also quite gaining in on them. And so while they are losing revenue on one side because they have to pick fewer than normal passengers, you are also expecting them to cough up more to pay for fuel at the same time. We are quite aware that the government has put in a lot of stimulus packages, even for SMEs in Ghana. Unfortunately, the informal sector.
Hello, Duncan. I think you're on mute again. I think your audio is on mute again, Duncan. If you can kindly unmute for me. Yes,
truth,
great.
Things are just not okay, and they do have a lot of concerns. We do interact with them on a day-to-day basis. A lot of them would want to continue, and all of us, to get to work and back safely. But as to whether or not we would be able to get on, they will be.
Duncan, looks like we're having issues with your audio. Keep muting. Hello, Duncan.
Yes. Within a very short span of time. Hello, Sandra. Yes.
Yes,
forgive me.
Your audio, kept going off.
I'm having a few network challenges.
Okay.
Hello.
Go ahead, please. Yes, let me just ask you, point well made. Let me just ask you before we lose you again. You are asking for a stimulus support for these transport operators. Specifically, what form of relief are you looking for?
Yeah, hello. Hello,
yes, Duncan, if you can hear. Yes, Duncan, I was asking that you are asking for a stimulus support for these transport operators. Specifically, what form of relief are you looking for?
Hello.
Yes, Duncan, if you can hear me, I was asking you earlier that your organization is calling for some form of support for these transport operators. Specifically, what would you want to see?
We would be happy if the government can at least reduce taxes on fuel for these public transport operators. If, however, we are also able to target their unions. My phone just went off.
Looks like we are having issues connecting with Duncan, but we had a lot to talk about, especially also now that oil prices have actually seen some best performance in the first quarter of this year. I mean, the best in 30 years, but unfortunately we are having issues with them. But